Oh, it looks like we're recording, so hopefully, I'm not sure why it's not letting me change that, but I'm going to proceed as if it's okay. The recording button's flashing, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay, that's good. It went away. Okay, so what um, the tech just did, they were in BioTrace, and I'm going to actually kind of walk through exactly what she did so that we can have a recording from ground zero. I'm going to talk relatively quickly. Some of this stuff is just a review, so I'm going to talk really quickly. So by now you've created a recording. You've been able to look at things like this muscle tension right here and make sure that we're working with the client to reduce any artifacts. Looks like in the front right temple, we have some artifacts there, and I'm just skimming the record super quick. Anything else that's too funny? That's an eye blink. That's an eye blink. Some beta spindles. In here, those may have been beta spindles, as quick little bursts of things, quick activity. That or some muscle tension, yawning maybe. Some beta, and I'm sorry, this is alpha bursts in there. So just looking at a bunch of different stuff. Okay, so you've taken the record, and this is still only in BioTrace. So you're going to hit this thing with the bars, and when the tech makes recording, she hit the enter key. Documents which is eyes closed, documents which is eyes opened. I was watching her do this, so I know that she has the eyes closed over here, and I know the second piece here is eyes open. You highlight the area that you want to, I guess that was already highlighted. Highlight the area by dragging your mouse across the area. And this was already done. Let's see. And by the way, I typically like to look at these recordings with the maps at the bottom, so that can help you take a look at things. I was noticing his anterior cingulate here, this area in the top front, was lighting up, so it's important information to look at. I don't see tons of eyebrow or temporal tension here. So it's always good to kind of scan, watch the maps as they're there. Because as I was sitting there, there's a kind of a burst of delta here. I was wondering if he was snoozing a little bit. His entire cingulate cortex here is completely lit up, high beta. Okay, so I'm going to try this again. Click on there. Sorry. So here's the eyes closed. There we go. Eyes closed. Okay, then you hit export QEEG. You turn it EDF plus format. I know I went through that quickly, but I think everyone kind of has it up to this place. But EDF plus format. There's other formats, EDF, neuroguide. Don't select any of the others. You want EDF because that's going to transfer all of the birthday and other demographic information. I'm going to hit OK. And she has already saved this, so actually in the client's file, and let's see. I don't have to save it again because she's already saved it. Oh, there she comes. Yeah, you can find it. Okay, and she's already saved it here, so it's first initial, last name, initial, date of birth, and then the eyes closed or eyes open recordings, and you save them as these EDF files. Yep, then this is your own choice, and it'll take care of that. So I'm not going to resave them. She's already done that. I'm going to close the BioTrace now, and again, you toggle back and forth between the waves and the export data screen here by just hitting those bars at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to close BioTrace. It's really not a good idea. In fact, the programs will crash if you have BioTrace open and neuroguide at the same time. So you close out BioTrace, and I know I'm talking quickly, but I'm going to show you how to do this editing. You go to the file, open EDF plus, because that's the type of file you saved. And she had these inpatient cases. And Shelley, are you still there? Is it this guy here? Okay, we're going to pick up the eyes closed right now. And you're choosing, I believe this is the Nexus right here. Yeah, choose Nexus amplifier, limp ears, because that's the default. We're looking at the eyes closed here. So I'm going to close this off here. And you can enter some other information, medication, and any comments about any trouble with the recording. We're going to hit OK. I was trying to make the scale so I can count how many waves are in a second. So from 2 to 3 seconds, for example, if I count this wave, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is a lot of beta going on at this place at C4. So let's try to look at that. The other thing I do, and this is probably a fine scale, you can change it around to make it smaller or bigger. In this case, he's got low voltage, so we want to change the scale to something like this. You can really highlight the bumps and waves there. Oh, the other thing you do is you put display time to 10, because that makes more sense, and that's why. Okay, let's go back the other way. There you go. That's still kind of tight. There you go. So the first thing really I should have done was hit display time 10, and it helps you count the seconds in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's more like it. There's 9 hertz there. Since I didn't have the display time correctly, it was showing the waves improperly. So we got all that going, so you can eyeball the record, and I'm going to scan through it just to see if there's anything that's sticking out as too funky here. Looks like actually a nice recording. I was watching the maps as he was taking the test, and there really was a lot of clean things going on. I did notice this FZ right away that has the lowest voltage, meaning the lowest amplitude, the lowest height, if you want to make it simple, to all the rest of them. So he does not have a lot of power going through his anterior cingulate. And I wrote probably half, if not all, of his report while he was sitting in the chair, because this sticks out to me as something that's significantly different than the rest of the record, but it's more of a clinical statement. But anyway, still looking through, but even for text, you can eyeball that this is something quite different from everything else that's happening. As I go through, there's not tons of problems with the gel or any terrible muscle tension or anything else like that. Just that FZ low voltage, which I heard him walking out the door saying he was going to an addiction meeting, and this is the addiction. That's actually what I wrote in his recording here, prone to addiction. Okay, I wrote that down in here. Anyway, you could pause and read that if you want. I'm not quite done reading it, but as he was sitting there, it's kind of the information. Yeah, makes him prone to addiction. So anyway, gonna still kind of scan to the end, make sure. Yeah, so there's a weird thing there. What was that? It's probably just a pop or something. Yeah, that's just a pop of the gel or something. Not gonna make much of it because there's not a regular pattern to it. If there's a regular pattern to it, that's a huge voltage spike, and you can do stuff like go over here and get an amplitude marker, and let's see if it'll do it for us. Yeah. And you can put your pointer over the height of that wave there and find out how much voltage is kind of shooting out. Over here, it's negative 130, while everything else is in the, under 10 or so, 12 range. So we know that spike there was a lot. Just for comparison, let's look at this FZ, low voltage, 3 microvolts in there. So there's a lot to kind of review as far as that goes. I'm not going to spend tons of time. That's not actually the point here, but you can go over here and view these different markers. Sometimes they don't turn off like I'd like them to, but okay, we'll deal with that later. So anyway, still scrolling through, we just had that one event. That's not a big deal. But other than that, it looks like a great recording. There's another little event that drove by there. Here, again, another little kind of shift in the gel or something like that. Okay. Right, there's not tons to another little blip there. P4, we'll have to remember that on P4 that there's a couple blips, and I do remember that from watching the maps go by, that there was an unusual kind of activity at P4 every now and then. I'm going to assume that was kind of gel doing weird things. There it is again, P4. And it was kind of intermittent, but that's something the tech can notice. If she sees some of this, she may want to go over there and actually put the dry syringe in there and move it about and see if you can't even out the gel in there. If it still doesn't clean up, then you can put more gel in there. So kind of start low and go high kind of thing. Some action in here, maybe they're getting ready to stop at that point. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to the automatic editing. The computer version of doing this editing is on the right-hand side. That's where the computer makes its own choices. There's a database for common things that would stand out as drowsiness, for example. I'm going to actually hit drowsiness just to show you what the computer is going to pick out as drowsiness. And it's a lot of the record. So as he was sitting there, I was wondering to myself, is this guy a little sleepy? Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. The red is actually good data. I'm sorry. Yeah, I get excited there because it all lit up at the same time. No, I'm sorry. Red is actually good data, and it's not selecting this stuff here. The other thing I'll do is, and just to look, is to see what eye movements look like, and it'll pick out stuff that is specific to their edits and look at things that are considered eye movements. And still kind of looking at this kind of bumpy stuff is probably eye movements. Anyway, I, as Dr. Laura, prefer not to have the computer do the work for me. It's not as accurate as I feel like we could be if we're doing it manually. So if you got to start somewhere, you do it over here, and that's fine. It'll give you some clues. But I'm going to clear the edits, and in fact, it was such a good record. You're not going to have too many problems doing editing. Select everything on the left-hand side. Deselect everything on the right-hand side. Generate the edits here. Oh, yeah, I got an artifact to myself. So I'm going to go to the front here and select some data. This is actually really good data. I talked about this in a recording I did earlier, but when you have waves that are below this midline here, like there's a line that goes through the entire recording here at the sensor location. And when you have this line here and there are waves underneath it, that tells me that that's a left-right eye movement. So that's definitely something we're not going to select. And here a little bit in here too. So it's not dramatic, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to tend to not select that kind of stuff. Oops, and that myself in trouble by in there, hopefully. Edit data, here we go. So that unselected the amplitude markers, and now I can actually do some editing. So again, the red is good data, still kind of under the line. That's not the best data. So when you're not happy about something, you right click and then drag it out and it'll undo it. Let me move along. Even when they first sit down, you have more. There's a lot of beta activity in the front. I think for this guy, we're just looking at FZ problems anyway, but we'll try the record here. moving through, we're not going to catch that, obviously. This is eye movement here. It would have to be perfect. Some of the stuff is going to be legit, and I guess it just comes with experience and figuring out what's legit, what isn't. But select out, again, I don't like that one there, but a little bit of it. And the goal here is to get 10 seconds total of edit time, because it's going to use that as a template to look at the rest of the data. Your goal after that is to, when we get to that, let me get to that. We're going to get to 10 seconds of good stuff. And then, there's a delta wave in there. Is it at the front? Yeah, this FZ, that looks like some high something. So I'm actually going to do that. Go over here. 8 seconds. It's 10 seconds. Okay, we have 10 seconds of data, and then you go to that edit screen, automatic editing, generate edits from the template that you just created. And your goal of this is to get 1 minute at least of good edit time. We have 2.5 minutes, that's fair. I'm going to close the screen, and the very first thing you want to do is save the file, because after you make those edits and you don't save it, then you get your initials and that makes it an NG file, so next time you need to refer to it, it'll be saved in there. If you do not save it, you have to go through the entire editing process again. Next thing you do is you go to generate analysis, and here's your maps. Okay, the first thing, and I'll just breeze through this. Absolute power. How much at FZ is that? Look at that. Wow, that's the addiction spot. That's a classic. We could super help this guy. But anyway, those are just summaries. Let me go down and see what page it is on here. Very low voltage head, so to speak. This is power, where it's microvolts squared, and you're looking at the red here what the highest voltage is. Those are still summaries. These are going to be the power ones. Okay, FFT, absolute power, microvolts squared. Here's where you look at the values at the on the red side of the scale here. And the most electricity, most power is going out on the front left. And I always kind of take that with a grain of salt, because it may be kind of muscle tension, but it could also be a developmental issue. It could be a hit. A lot of times we see this kind of stuff, but actually we're not actually looking at the Z-scores quite yet. This is really more a recording of where does all the electricity go. It's all going to the front left here and not much in the back. So the 13 here at 2 hertz, that's going to be the biggest issue. This is the highest number. This one ain't great at 8, but really the big one here is at 2 hertz, 9 and 10 hertz. Those are things that we want to think about when we start thinking clinically. But moving on, those are the higher frequency ranges. We don't have to look at those necessarily. So, okay, so this came up again. This F7 probably area. That is a word retrieval. Working memory spot has to do with controlling your emotions. This FZ spot, I saw that right off the bat. It was very low voltage, not a lot of power going in through there. And again, that's an addiction place. So those are the maps. You save these maps into this file. make a folder called images. You open the folder and you're going to label eyes closed 04271963. And it's going to assign that this way. Let's keep it consistent. SW and then put the eyes closed at the end. There we go. Link tiers. So you do the eyes closed. No, you don't even need I'm sorry, you don't need the eyes closed. You just need the fact that it's linked tiers because there's other montages like inflation and whatnot that we didn't differentiate them. Okay, so we're going to save this, and what it's going to do is going to put all those images into his folder. And we're going to look at that right here. Go to his images folder, and here's all his little pictures in there. That's your map. And again, the two important maps I like to look at. Okay, it's going to be this one. And often what I do to make my life a little better is pick up this snipping tool. I put it on the desktop for you guys. Take a picture of it and then save that into the little folder. And we call that Z-score. Call that 15. Absolute power. So that is one that goes into this little folder. Patient cases, this stuff. And I won't even put this one into the images because that's one you want to refer to pretty readily because this is what you're going to make the treatment plan against. In his case, I'm going to make this super quick. I don't know if the people who are sitting with a computer need to run, but I'm going to do this super quickly. I'm going to close this stuff. You can stay here for another couple minutes. Okay, hang tight because I'm going to show you how to do something else. So we're going to change what are we going to change? The collection to playback. Okay, here's playback. I want to play back this recording to the computer while I set up a symptom checklist for him. Okay. So we need to make a blank create symptom checklist match. And here's SW04271963. Okay. So we're telling the computer we want to start doing a neurofeedback with him. We have to create a blank symptom checklist, which I just did. So it's just empty, completely empty right now. But then we are going to go to this playback because that's the only way to get the symptom checklist in unless he's here live, and obviously he left. So I think I have to, we already saved it. Gotta open it up again. Study. Link there's display time 10. I think the training, we're going to look at it with the eyes open. So this is a recording of his eye movement there. Then what we're going to do is in the collection there, we're going to go to the neurofeedback, Loretta neurofeedback. We are going to create a brand new symptom checklist. So we're going to click on this. We're going to go to his folder, SW. Symptom checklist. I thought we just did one of those. There we go. Did I drop it in here? All right, so this is what I thought I made. Hang on, let me stop this going on here. Yeah, put this file again. So apparently in all of this, I thought I did this, but it didn't seem to go. Create symptom checklist match. Maybe I did not save it in his folder. It looks like that's probably what happened here. Okay. 04271963. So again, this is the blank template. And I thought it already did this, and I probably saved it in the wrong place. So I guess it is what it is. We're still in the playback. I'm going to go to the playback recording. playback of the eyes closed, actually. So since the playback of the eyes closed, I'm going to keep it closed for a second. But neurofeedback, Loretta neurofeedback, symptom checklist. Here it is. Okay, we made that blank template. So here's a blank template. Nothing is happening here. I put a z-score of 2 because we're looking for 2 percentile population matches to whatever symptoms. I'm guessing. Never met the man in my life, but just looking at the looking at this F7 problem. What it does when you type a severity in there, it's either 0 or 1. You can put other numbers in there, but it doesn't matter to the computer. You put a 1 in there. The hypotheses are these Brodmann areas. These are Brodmann areas by the numbers. These Brodmann areas are going to be dysregulated, and he's a perfect match for anxiety, so we're going to keep that as a symptom. The other thing I know just from, we got addiction in there too, so let me find substance abuse, like that. And hypothetically, all these things should light up, and in reality, they all light up. So those are good guesses. There's probably more, but and I'm giggling, sorry, that 479 metrics, that means there's a ton of matches to those hypotheses. That's way too much to deal with. So I actually go back to the checklist. I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to change the z-score to 3. So we need to have fewer metrics. There we go, 143. That is much more doable. You change all these things, Zucore launcher. The techs probably already know all about this stuff already, but just to have it recorded, this is a Z-Tunes we want to choose here. Monitor 2, you're going to be using that. I don't think all of these completely save when we save this, but number of rounds 1, session duration 20 minutes. And when you're doing the training, you can watch, like in real time, their rewards here, the progress, the percentiles, and which Brodmann areas are getting hit, and what z-scores things are still dysregulated. Okay, so all of this is complete. I am going to save. That's an important thing. Save the completed. SO5 is the completed checklist. We're saving that into this record, SW04274663. And now we have that record. Okay, so that's saved. Okay, it always asks about this tab delimited. This is for Excel spreadsheets. We don't use that. Close that. Okay. And then when you're ready to do training, you hit apply, and then you're off to the races. So I don't need to hit apply. It's done. When you start the training, since we've already created the symptom checklist, here it is. You can click right on this. If this were a brand new session, brand new coming in to get their training, you'd click on this to open up their session. Make sure all of these things in here are as they are right here. Sometimes it defaults to the other stuff. Make sure your session rounds are 1 and 20. That's all you have to do. Okay. So I'm closing. I'm going to stop this. An important thing, if you ever do that playback to do a symptom checklist when the client is not there, as in this case, always make sure you go back to hardware selection, put it back on Nexus 32 because your Nexus won't work because it's in playback mode. Important piece of information. Okay. Everything is completely done. That's a good recording. I'm going to stop the recording at this point and we'll deal with it later. Okay, hopefully that worked.